All right. And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our moratorium meeting for September 3rd. Okay, we took kind of a break during the summertime, but we were waiting for a few things to be done. And we're going to bring people up to speed on where we stand right now. And then, Ed, do you have, she's going to be here, and she's going to give a presentation. Okay, very good. All right, so moratorium meeting. I'm going to bring up a couple of different topics, tell you where I believe we stand at this point, and then we can kick that around a little bit if anybody has anything to add in there. As far as any type of recreational facilities to handle an increase in the amount of people in the town of Lancaster, I think this part of it has been handled pretty well at this point. We do have the referendum coming up in November to buy additional park space. We got a new ADA compliant playground going in at Westwood. We have a turf field going in at Walden Ponds, and all these things should help us to deal with an increase in the amount of children in the area. We've had some straightening out of programs through the rec department, yes. Which was a great idea, sending out the pamphlets, telling everybody about how things are being done, and basically we're trying to do as much as we possibly can with the facilities we have. We also, there's a resolution tonight talking about how we managed to get into an agreement with the school district in the town of Lancaster to utilize their fields, and they can utilize our fields, when nobody else is on those fields. So we think that's going to help out as well when it comes to the recreational aspect of the moratorium, what we're talking about with more kids coming into the town of Lancaster. What we want to do, and anybody comments on that stuff at this point, or, I mean, that's kind of, it is what it is. Anything else in that area?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm also working on upgrading the pool, but that doesn't accommodate, well, yeah, it does. I'm working diligently on trying to find monies to upgrade the Keys pool, which will then to allow us to expand programs for seniors and ADA.
Okay. And we've already been working on the senior center itself, still waiting for some federal money to upgrade that. Again, the numbers there are already pretty big. Again, but just so you know, we're working on that along with a couple other things. When it comes to the rest of all the moratorium things that we've done, we've discussed quite a bit on what we like to do. And I think it's come to a point where we do want to make some changes, perhaps. I know I do in the town code. So we need to start setting up the dates of when we're going to have public meetings, who needs to be invited to these public meetings, any other attorneys, anything that we have to bring in for these public meetings, and make sure that, we do this the proper way and make sure we do it in a timely manner, because it is the beginning of September, and we want to try to get this all done before the end of the year and make the changes that we want to make. Some of the things that we talked about were water lines, having new developments come in. If there's a problem with the water lines, the new development would you have to pay for the changes. Traffic study wise, if there was a major influx of traffic that was going to be coming in, we've looked at the possibility of having them pay for any changes that need to be made there, including like extra turning lanes. And how did you say it earlier today when we were talking?
Hold the developers to task for them to pay for a comprehensive traffic and infrastructure study within a 5 to 10 mile radius of their development, and have them be responsible for the upgrades of drainage, traffic issues, things like that.
Okay. The other thing we were talking about is having some green space at the developments. So it's right there when they come in, they know they're going to have to develop some type of green space in that area. And, so we want to try to incorporate all these changes if the town board agrees, of course, to making those type of changes. But again, we got to have all the public hearings and everything else if we want to get that done. Some of the code changes, I think we were looking at multifamily, multi-use. There's some very, very big areas of multifamily, multi-use. So we've talked about perhaps splitting them up into different types of multifamily, multi-use, so we don't end up with another apartment complex like we have at Pavement and Broadway, where there's a whole bunch of apartments in there. I think they're more intended for a small store, pizzeria, deli, whatever, with some apartments over top of it and adequate parking in that area. So again, perhaps it's a good idea to change some of our multifamily, multi-use into different, how do we put that, Ed? Different phases, different codes?
Different,
Categories, okay. Different categories. Okay, so if we do that again, we're restricting certain areas that are, you can only put in there some type of a deli, pizzeria, that type of stuff with a few apartments.
Especially in those corners in the agricultural district.
Yeah.
Those busy corners, kind of thing. I can see mixed use, things, marts where people can grab a gallon of milk or some gas, and then apartments upstairs, kind of thing. So a mixed use kind of thing, just on those heavy corners.
And again, if, ultimately the town wants to have another 50 apartments in some area, we'll figure that out with the rezoning here. We also probably don't want to see a place like a Dollar General go into a residential neighborhood, like what was talked about in the last town board meeting. So we'll look at, this type of thing just to make sure all proper zoning is in place for different areas and the changes that we want to make. Okay, so that kind of sums it up. Anything that I missed? Airbnbs, okay. As we're changing code, it gives us an opportunity to change code on different areas as well. So one of the things we want to deal with are Airbnbs, instead of, waiting till next year to deal with it. When we're changing the code anyways, we can get that out there as well, have public hearings on that and see some, changes in there. We've had people at the town board meetings complaining about the fact that there's an Airbnb in the middle of a very residential area, which creates problems for everybody in that neighborhood. So again, we gotta try to limit the effects or control or have some laws, something in place to decide how those are
Well,
gonna
that would
be
also
run.
help with hotels, like length of stay. So if we actually expounded on our length of stay, it might help both ends of the spectrum with hotels
Good idea.
and Airbnbs. So maybe we want to look at our length of stay issues.
Okay. Okay, what was the other area?
There was, block parties are
Oh, yeah.
great, but when it's a neighborhood party, it can be unsafe. So we may want to look at code as regards, event type of situation. The Village of Lancaster does have an event form. It's only used when people need village resources. It's something maybe the town might want to look at. That if there's a need for village or town resources such as barricades and so on and so forth, at least the department heads that are affected, police, highway, so on and so forth, can see what's going on. If they have any issues with the size or the safety, safety is the main issue, the safety of this event, then it comes to the board for the board approval. So we might want to look at code as far as safety.
And again, we're changing the code, hopefully, we're changing the code based on what we found in the moratorium meetings. So we might as well do it at the same time and get everything done pretty much at one time. So it's in place by the beginning of next year. Again, my goal is to have all this done and make sure that basically we're done by January 1. We've made our decisions, what we're going to do. We move forward to that point, and then next year, open for business with the appropriate changes for residential developments coming in. Okay? That's what I got. Anybody else got anything at this point in time that they want to add? Okay.
Can
Yeah.
I just say one thing? I'm glad that you're doing it all together because it will be a big cost savings to the town. When we do bid at a time, the cost is really quite high. But by doing it all together, at least for how it sets in general code, it's a much lower cost.
Okay. Okay. You guys ready?
This is Wendy Salati. She's a planner. She was involved with the last comp plan, working on one election side.
Wendy, if you could grab one of these chairs or whatever, if you want to sit there, or go up here, whichever you want.
Oh, I don't want to see you. I'd rather do this, thank you.
And whose presentation is this for?
This is what Wendy put together.
Okay, this is part of what you put together?
Right,
Do we have
my
a-
understanding that I'm working for the moratorium committee.
Yes.
Yes, this is the moratorium committee.
Okay, and I was asked to look at your MFMU zoning. So I looked at quite a number of things, actually.
Okay.
I looked at the zoning. I looked at your comprehensive plan in terms of the vision from the plan, the recommendations from the plan as to how they apply to proposed or future residential development, commercial development. I looked at the comprehensive plan with respect to environmental protection, and that's all rolled into the vision map that is in the comprehensive plan. So I focused a lot on that, and I took that and I compared that with your existing zoning map. And I also looked at all the places where you have MFMU zoning and jotted down a whole bunch of my thoughts because we need to start a discussion. So I just sort of dropped them onto some slides. But I think the first thing that would be good to talk to, and if you want to advance one, is really looking at the MFMU's district, multifamily mixed-use zoning district, and what it says in your code with respect to the intent of that district. So it talks about providing areas in the town for the development of attached and detached units at higher densities where public sewers are available. It talks about encouraging development that exhibits the physical design characteristics of pedestrian-oriented, storefront-style shopping streets by allowing certain neighborhoods servicing retail, service, and other uses. It's a whole lot of stuff. It talks about encouraging mixed-use development, and then finally, the intent is to promote the health and well-being of residents by encouraging physical activity, alternative transportation, and greater social interaction. So that got me to thinking about what have you achieved? What was your actual vision? When you put this together, what were you actually expecting to see? And you can go to the next slide. So I cobbled together a number of slides or pictures that basically, is this what you wanted? Did you want 3-4-story buildings? Did you want something more retail on the bottom, residential on top? So these are just some photographs that I wanted you to tell me, do any of these meet what you thought you would achieve or what you have achieved through your MFMU zoning? I mean, I read the zoning. I know what it says you can have, but, and so I guess the better question is what you've gotten, does it meet the intent of this district? Has it provided you, I know it's provided you with attached and detached dwelling units, which was the first statement. The third statement is, I know it's given you some mixed-use development, because that's easy. It's commercial on the first floor and residential upstairs. But the other two statements, encouraging development that exhibits the physical design characteristics of pedestrian-oriented, street-front-style shopping streets by allowing certain neighborhood servicing, retail, service, and other uses. So was the intent of this statement that you wanted sort of little all-inclusive places where I can live, work, play maybe? Or how did, whatever meets the intent of that statement, how would it fit in with the area around it? So
Kitty?
I want to try to break that up and talk about that in terms of what it was you were trying to achieve.
Well, the intent of the statement, again, I can't come down on that one way or the other as to how it is right now, but when I think of multifamily, multi-use, I'm thinking more like the center and the bottom down there. I don't see how the top right, which is basically what we have at Broadway and Pavement, when you put a bunch of people on an island all living together in one place, I don't think that doesn't meet my definition of it. I'm thinking more, you put some stores in, you put some living above that with appropriate parking in there. Again, all the rest of this, the bigger ones, the higher stories, we don't really allow that in the
I
town.
was gonna say, should we cap it at 1 or 2 stories?
Right, yeah, 2 stories. So we don't allow that. That's more for like the downtown area here for the village. So that's my take on it. And again, the townhomes that, again, that's, when you put in the mixed use part in the end there, I'm thinking, stores and living above it type of thing. That's.
I agree, we're
anybody
putting them
else?
on an island. Again, we were just talking about those heavy traffic corners going out, Pavement, Ransom, things like that.
Right.
Putting these people on an island without a place to get, a bite of food, pizza,
Right.
a gallon of milk, something like that. I think I'd like to see more of the center bottom or the right, I think. Does it look like more like a village stores? I mean, we don't want to take the village and the town. The village has its own place kind of thing, but as the world expands, I think that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
So based on the last round of updates that we did in 19 to adopt in 20, all of the public input basically funneled that information into these statements to provide an area where you can get to, not just by automobile, but by walking, riding a bike, whatever it was. So honestly, the projects that we've had in the last 3 to 4 years, some of them fell short. A lot of them fell short because we didn't require pedestrian access, the bicycle access to these facilities. Whoops.
Right, which is the fourth statement,
Right.
which talked about,
Not too, Matt, I provided copies of the comprehensive master plan to the planning board. And I'm
It's all
sure,
available.
or I'm sorry, to the zoning board. And then, too, yes, it is available, but,
It is.
but
It's available
human nature,
electronically.
psychology, it's there, it's online, but unless it's in my hand in front of me, that like Missy always comes very prepared, she's got it right there in front of her, okay? That she can look and see at it. And then, too, has it been reviewed with these people?
So based on
well, we're
that,
going to talk
yes,
about that.
it did. They got reviewed, and there were comments from the planning board, the zoning board, the public,
Okay,
before it was adopted.
Yep,
before it was adopted.
correct.
Okay, so that was in 2019. We're 18, 19. Yeah, right, when I was on the board last time. Right, well, I remember I was on the board last time. But in the last 5 years, has it been reviewed? And we've had zoning and planning board people coming in and out of the board,
It's, in my opinion, it's at its tail end of its lifespan. It could be looked at again, updated to meet the current conditions of the economy, of the stakeholders that are involved. Absolutely.
maybe something is, okay, so we have planning board members, zoning board members that have been there for years. Maybe as a new person comes on, maybe part of their initiation is to review the comprehensive master plan with
That
someone.
should be an absolute requirement.
Right.
Because it's part of their job to help you implement that.
Instead of just telling them, well, you can find it online and read it yourself. No, I want to sit down with somebody and review it with them so that if I have any questions or discussion, I can hold those. So maybe the planning board and or the zoning board, when they bring on the newbies in January, when they start their new thing, maybe they should take a meeting aside and just review the comprehensive master plan.
In addition to reviewing the zoning ordinance.
Zonings too,
Because
yes.
that's the other important piece of their job. But, so, thinking about what you were just saying, and thinking about the MFMU, because the purpose of it is to allow you to increase development density. So the question really now becomes, where should the denser development and, your higher buildings be located? And should the character of the surrounding area, should that matter? when you're making these decisions, whether it's a development decision or a decision to rezone property, to allow you to do this. And that's even more important because that's where the comprehensive plan plays a bigger role, because you have to zone in accordance with that plan. After you adopt the plan, your zoning has to be brought to be consistent with that plan. If not, or if you zone something that's not in accordance with that plan, it's considered spot zoning and it's illegal. But, so the question is, you've got a bunch of districts zoned MFMU, some of them have been developed, some have not. So one of the things we need to do together is start looking at where you want to have this density. Are some of these districts in the right place? So that was a question. So the next slide, Matt. So the next thing that I looked at in your MU district was the land uses, the things that are permitted, because I looked at it in line with your light commercial and your general commercial. And there are many places where they're all the same across the board. They all allow the same uses. And there's a few exceptions. But then I started looking at some of the things that are permitted under MFMU. And I made a list of them here because when I think of the MFMU, and especially as Councilwoman Schroeder just described it, it would be a two-story structure with small businesses underneath. So do these things fit there? Or because you can't just have a standalone building in MFMU that would just house this, it wouldn't be zoned properly. You would want that in a C1 or an LC or a GC district, light commercial or general commercial. So a bank, a church, a dormitory, a funeral home, mortuary, an office building. It does allow offices. So yeah, I could see small offices of any nature going under residential uses. Medical or health services, not sure what that means. You could put a small doctor's office, a small eyeglasses place or whatever in some of these, but I guess it comes down to a matter of scale. But then I looked at some of these other things: drugstores, home furnishing stores, sporting goods stores, garden stores, hardware stores. Some of these things can be fairly large. So it, again, would have to be controlled by your schedules in the code, which I looked at but didn't spend a great deal of time studying, not just yet. Veterinary and small animal hospitals, maybe not a good use if you're going to have residential above and such. And then anything that might allow or require a drive-through lane. You know, are these appropriate uses in the MFMU district? So I think looking at it from this perspective, maybe we need to revisit it to think about what do we really want it to do, especially if we go back to those statements of intent. And I'm not sure that these types of uses may necessarily meet that statement of intent to allow you to sort of get these neighborhood scale little, live above, and I can go downstairs and get a cup of coffee or see.
What if the coffee's got a drive-through lane?
Yeah, but what if the
Till
coffee?
midnight.
Yeah. And I know you have one of those. I know. So this was another thing that I looked at. So I just tried to sum it up to start this conversation in the next slide, Matt. So some of my general observations or things that I want to talk to you about are: should lands be rezoned to allow for greater density just because there's sewer service there? And we need to think about that. I'm going to talk in a few minutes about the comprehensive plan. And then, should density be allowed in areas where natural resources exist? And again, I'm going to tie that back to the comprehensive plan. How should development be managed in hamlets such as Bowmansville and Town Line? And then, does the vision and the recommendations of the comprehensive plan get reviewed and considered when development and rezonings are proposed? And that again goes back to the preparedness of your board members and their understanding of the plan and how to use it. with respect to development and zoning decisions. So the comprehensive plan has a vision statement in it. It has vision statements, and it has a vision map. And I looked at that map closely with respect to your zoning. And there are some places, and I wasn't sure of the format. I marked up a map. I thought we were going to be sitting around a table, and I couldn't really, but there's some places where you have MFMU zoning that I think we should think about and revisit. There's some places that absolutely appropriate, you know, but there's a few places that it doesn't make sense from the perspective of the comprehensive plan. And so the biggest elephant in the room for me was Bowmansville. The whole of Bowmansville area is zoned MFMU. Are you going to bring up the zoning map?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
I'm going to bring the comp plan, but we'll do the zoning map too.
okay. Can you zoom in on the Bowmansville area? Yeah, great.
Or would you like to go?
That's good, that's fine. You're all familiar with it, I would hope. Bowmansville is a quaint little hamlet that has a very busy road running through the middle of it. It has a number of historic structures and resources, the biggest being the church on the southeastern side by the creek. And it has the creek. And the creek is a cause of flooding in that area during certain situations. Snow melt in the winter, significant rains, ice jams, you name it. So the comprehensive plan has pretty much a very large portion of the area designated as a resource protection area. So that right there needs to be acknowledged from the perspective of allowing the density of development that could be permitted under the MFME zoning in that district. So that's one area that I think we should talk about in terms of, is MFMU the correct zoning for that area? And
The reason Bowmansville was identified that way was to reflect the existing uses, because most of the area is already developed.
They'd be or they wouldn't be in compliance with the code if we changed it.
well,
Can we grandfather? Can we use
I
verbiage?
guess you have mixed uses.
But you have to be careful with non-conforming uses,
Right.
because should there be damage in excess of a percentage,
Right.
you couldn't rebuild
Can't be
it, or
rebuilt.
restore it, or renovate it back to its original condition.
Right.
And then again, one of the directives when we looked at the joint plan was to dial all of that in and identify the existing uses as they are and make them important.
Okay. I guess the reason I didn't see it as a mixed use from the MFMU district perspective is that it does have a mix of uses, but they're in individual buildings. There aren't a lot of buildings in that area that have more than one use in them. So you have a lot of single-family residential structures, you have an auto dealership, you have a coffee shop, you've got a little Italian place with multifamily development behind it, the church, some other things on, in that node of Harris Hill and Genesee, a number of mixed commercial uses, restaurant that's been there forever, and a drive-through restaurant and such. So I didn't really mixed use from the perspective of a mixed-use structure, Bowmansville isn't the first area that pops into my
For the
head
most
for
part,
that.
they are 2 and 3 family dwellings.
Right,
It's very
okay,
far and few between if you would have a single family.
okay,
They appear that way if you drive by them,
Yes.
but they are, like Matt had said.
okay, so you have a multifamily structure that may have 1, 2, or 3 units in it, but it's, the way that I think of mixed use, that's all that's in it, it's just a residential use, so it's a multifamily dwelling.
Especially on the north side
Right.
of Genesee Street.
Yep.
That's mostly
Right,
the multifamily.
right.
So again,
But I-
being structures that were built in the late 1800s.
Yes,
late
yeah.
1800s, right? So if and when they are redeveloped or reestablished or merged into properties, you know, you have that opportunity on the state roadway to develop a multifamily mixed-use project. But you also have to look at it, as you said, all of the environmental impacts on this.
Right.
Is that a good
Right.
place for that?
Right.
Just because you can build it,
Yes.
doesn't mean you must build it.
And I understand that light commercial or general commercial won't work because neither of them allow residential uses. So you sort of had no choice but to do something like this. I guess my concern is that there's probably more needed, whether it would be through an overlay district to protect historic structures, environmental considerations, there's more that's needed here than just slapping the MFMU zoning designation here. So it needs some work. It's in zoning enhancements, whatever, so that it builds in those protections to not allow you to just come and do similar to what's being done on Harris Hill on the other side of the thruway, But then again, you don't have large parcels of land. The biggest one there already has a multifamily, a high-density multifamily use on it behind Linguini's. You do have some properties on the southeast side where the Joy Love Church is and there's some open lands there. You could do a larger multifamily development there. But I think it would make sense in one of our future meetings to take a closer look at this particular area.
If I can jump in here.
Sure.
Our issues are not to add a bazillion people to the town of Lancaster.
Right.
Okay, we already have, we're pretty well maxed. Our desire is to, best utilize what we have remaining in such a way that we don't bring in, a whole bunch of huge developments in there in areas,
Right.
especially areas where they shouldn't be.
Right.
It's more for the multifamily mixed use. Like I said, you have some stores down below that the neighborhood can walk to, and you have some apartments up above. So you don't have, again, 50 apartments stuffed in there. You look at somewhere by the Harris Hill, and what's is
Whirling?
that the Genesee Street? Is that Genesee where the alley oops is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. If you
Yeah,
look at
that's
that,
right here, right.
and again, that needs to be designated something else. I think it's mixed family, multifamily mixed use
Well,
there.
that's, what you're talking about.
And again, but
is right
it's a
here.
gas station right there. We don't want to put an apartment complex in there.
The gas station is the pink.
This is Harris Hill, this is Genesee, the gas station with the pizzeria.
Right,
that's
it's
right
there.
and Alley
What,
Oops is-
you took away the color thing. I can't see what
Yeah.
different things
Yeah,
are without
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's hard to see that.
What is the blue?
So what is the pink?
That is
General commercial.
General commercial.
Right,
Okay,
okay.
and blue?
Which seems to make sense.
And that's the only thing that would allow a gas station.
Yeah.
Right. But next to it, I don't think we want to put in, 1,000 apartments in there.
But you've got a bunch of apartments here.
That was the old golf course that they turned into all the,
Hill.
Yeah.
Right, yes, yeah. But you've got some properties here that somebody could cobble together. You've got property here. So the question is, how do you care if you get another, large density multifamily development in this area?
I do.
Right, I mean, I'm asking, that's what I'm saying, I think.
There's no
We're not gonna fix
walkability.
it today, but I think
Right.
at one of our next meetings, that we take a closer look at this area. And, so maybe we can't remove the MFMU zoning from there, but is there a way that we can make it better?
Can we do that through, so in the comprehensive plan already, it says that it was suggested that the town considered having Bowmansville designated as a historic district.
Yep.
And then, because many structures there could warrant protection to help preserve their historic architecture and design, so at least we can protect some of the structures there. But if it's a historic district, then how would that impact this?
It helps, it lends protections so that if somebody came in and purchased one or two parcels and wanted to come in and knock those structures down, they couldn't do it because they have historic protection.
Yeah.
They'd have to at least maintain the facade but
But it would protect.
but you could
all-
also, there's the possibility of doing some kind of a zoning overlay in this, which I think was also discussed in the comprehensive plan in terms of overlay districts, and that was something that was mentioned when we first met about thinking about zoning overlays, not just for here, but also for the town line area, that hamlet. The potential exists where we could do something like that. And that overlay district, all a zoning overlay district does, it allows you to place additional requirements on top of the existing zoning. The underlying zoning stays.
So if we were to overlay a historical district over Bowmansville, would the homeowners in that area then, for instance, if they wanted to change out their front door, have to approach the historical commission for permission on that?
Probably, yes.
That would be.
You have a town
norms. I don't know
historic
if those residents-
preservation?
Town's not.
Okay,
We don't,
okay.
just the village?
Then if they want to just change the door, I don't think the state's going to come down on them and say, okay, that you just broke the law and you're going to be fined, whatever. But but that would be where the protection from the overlay district comes in, where you can add in some architectural standards that say that everything has to maintain historic character. So you can't buy a 1960s modernistic style front door with,
Or we don't have to do that?
Or you don't
Because I
have
don't
to
want to
do that.
restrict the residents in their,
Right.
own homes.
Right, but they may, but I don't know what they want, but I'm just, the point is there is a certain character in there that makes Bowmansville what it is, that I would hope that the town would want to protect and preserve that. So if that's the case, then you're hoping that when people buy, or those that have lived a long time in those homes, will feel the same way and want to maintain the details and the beauty of those structures. The church itself that's there, that probably should, if it doesn't already have, it probably should be nominated for some kind of historic register designation, because it's very significant and has been there for.
Where is the church on this right now?
It's right here. It's like right.
Right next to the creek, yeah.
Okay, so that's zone multifamily mixed use?
Yes,
Just because.
It's right up.
because churches are allowed in
Goes
the,
back to what's allowed in the zone.
Yeah,
right,
The school building was also converted to
No, it's
office
disciples.
space,
Right.
flexible space,
Yeah.
Right.
like a neighborhood gathering
That's
area,
it.
social area.
yeah.
So it's got a lot of mixed uses. Keep in mind too, in the northeast corner of this intersection,
Disciples live
they
Yep.
have an approved site plan for 3 buildings with commercial and multifamily occupancies. It's due to expire in the beginning of next year.
Is that the kind of awful, excuse me if any of you own it, but there's not a very nice looking structure that's just east of the Tim Hortons? Yeah, okay.
So, what kind of zoning is going to protect the church? That somebody can't come in and purchase the church land, knock it down, and then put up a bunch of apartments and whatever?
right now, unless it has a historic designation, if it's on the state or national register, there's nothing that would prevent that from happening. I mean, God forbid somebody would want to do that, you know, and God forbid that that's a property that the Catholic Church decides, like Our Lady of Peace in the town of Clarence, that they're closing up, you know, and then that puts that site at risk. So if you had an historic overlay that would protect it,
So the overlays, again, the ones that we looked at on there, sometimes are confusing because it seems to open it up to, you can do anything in there, because it includes everything on there when you look at this map. Some of the different areas, or maybe it's a separate map. So there's a very specific historic overlay that you can
Well,
put
you
on
could
certain
just-
areas
you-
without opening it up to anything else?
the church is allowed because the multifamily mixed-use zoning allows churches.
Okay,
So, but it allows a lot of other things. So again, if the Catholic Church decides, is it a Catholic church? Yes. If the Catholic Church decides that they don't want to own it anymore, then the property can either be taken over by some other religious institution, or it goes on the market. It becomes
Right.
marketable land. And then, the church will sell it. And then the question is, what would happen to it? It's a pretty good-sized property. If you had an historic overlay zoning, some provisions in place, you could protect the character of that site. You could require that the historic features be maintained, but I don't, unless it's nominated for historic designation, there's no way to keep somebody from knocking a building down. I don't know of any way. So, yeah, I mean, I'm actually gonna look and see if that site's on a register. It would surprise me if it wasn't, because it's just so special, but, it probably warrants protection if it's important to the town of Lancaster, you know, as a locally significant historic resource, just as the other structures, the little homes and stuff, there's quite a number there. So,
If it's not, I think that for the residents of Bowmansville, they would find that significantly important for them if we could do that. A lot of the residents in Bowmansville are, some of them are original owners, a lot of them are, it's been passed down family to family. That used to be elementary school at one point, so a lot of people have went to school there. It is a significant structure for people that live up there.
I think this is where the public has to speak up.
Absolutely.
right, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Who has the ability to make the application? Does it have to be the property owner?
The town could do it, yeah.
We could file?
Yeah.
Interesting.
You could also, I'll have to look into it a little more, but you could adopt some kind of local historic preservation regulations, maybe even establish a committee or a commission, as some communities call them, and locally designate. You know, if it's not already protected as a state or a national register structure, locally designate. And then you can build some protections onto the property, so that if that could be done for any property. And, you know, part of your, if you could, yeah, if you, I'm sorry? Sure, cemetery, yes,
Right.
exactly. There's I mean, I'm just talking Bowmansville, there have to be other significant historic places in the community that you'd want to protect as well. So, you know, that might be, what a great Eagle Scout project. Yeah, get some kid to go out and do research on them all, you know, and put together, and then you could locally designate them all. And
Can I ask, does a historic overlay protect them at all? Or do they have to have the national designation?
they'd have to have a national or a state designation. Being locally significant, It's just that you're going to lend more credence to the protection of that property or the structures.
For zoning purposes and,
If anything comes in the future.
And does the owner of the property have a say? Say that the town puts
Sure.
paperwork in
Yeah.
for that church to be.
Yeah, if the church decides it doesn't want to be recognized as a historic property, yeah, I mean, they own it. They
we
they
should probably get a
can,
letter of agreement
but
if we choose from the
Because if they're
property.
putting it up for
Town
sale,
knows
Right.
they may not want.
commission, whatever you want to call
if the town established a historic preservation commission,
it. Yes.
Yep.
Designates certain properties. Again, what's the owner's ability to object?
they can't object to that. They can't stop the town from doing that. But the thing is that you are now, which you were going in that direction. Now, they have to jump through some more hoops if they want to do certain things with their properties. They can't make certain changes because, the whole goal of historic preservation is to preserve the
Maintain,
character
right,
of
the
the
character.
structure and the property.
It can't be forced to register. It can't be forced to be put on the national.
No, absolutely not, no. But a lot of times owners would not object to it because it helps build protections for their properties, so, this being owned by the Catholic Church, I'm not sure how the diocese would react to it, but, let me look and see, because it may already be registered, and I don't know. In fact, you have the comprehensive plan with you? Can I see it? Because they may have noted in there.
Can I ask, were you able to find actual boundaries of Bowmansville of the hamlet?
No, because I don't
Oh,
think there
really?
are
We don't even.
official boundaries for it. It was, yeah, no.
Well, speaking of historical, would Mary Jo Monin be able to find us any paperwork from way back when that would establish boundaries? Yeah. And she would also be able to be a good resource for any cemeteries or any other historical places in the town.
Sure.
We decided to go that route.
That we've discussed before, the Bowmansville and then also Town Line.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bowmansville has much more historic significance than what is remaining.
Okay. The town of Lancaster has 2 buildings outside of the villages that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places and the New York State Register of Historic Places. These are the Warren Hull House, which that should have come to mind immediately.
And the Little Red Schoolhouse.
Yeah, the Hull House is on Pavement Road in Genesee. And then the other one is the Lancaster District School Number 6 building at 3703 Bowen Road. Yep. So those are the only 2.
Now, those New York State designated?
Yeah, let's see. Proportionally, the village of Lancaster.
Federal.
The village of Lancaster has 2 districts and 12 individual buildings that are listed on the National and State Registers. So that means the village probably has an historic preservation commission.
We do.
Okay, so that could create a model for you, if the town wanted to go that way. But that answers a question, is that the church is not protected.
So one of the things I was,
Designation.
As of 2018, right?
one of the things, from an MFMU perspective.
Yep.
To dial it in, be looking at those allowed uses and getting rid of some of them.
Yes. Yeah, well, now you realize that it creates a problem. Yeah.
Okay,
That
so
was
we
just
get
my
rid of
first
some of
glance,
them.
so.
So then the second question is, where are those that allowed? If you get rid of them out of that zone, they go to the general business or the general commercial, like commercial zone?
Yeah, but I don't believe,
They got allowed somewhere, I don't care where it is.
yeah, but I don't believe churches were allowed in the LC or the
I'm not
GC.
so sure I'm not, a church doesn't allow me,
Oh, okay.
depending on church.
So I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, I'm just saying, you gotta look like, they do it like animal hospital.
Right, and you do have an animal hospital there, don't you, in Bowman's?
Yes.
You got an animal hospital bank,
Yep.
whatever was on the list. If you take them out of the MFMU, where do they go? Where are they?
You'd have to rezone them to a but then, you know, I mean,
Well, I'm saying the ones that exist, maybe not, let's say
Yeah.
they stay non-conforming
right, well, they're not non-conforming at the moment.
right now. Right,
Right,
they're not right now.
right,
But if you change what was in the MFMU.
right.
They would become non-conforming.
If you change them to something that is not,
So, you know,
yeah,
if we change what was allowed in the MFMU.
yeah. See, a bank is allowed in the LC or the GC.
All right, so that's what,
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, a bank is allowed in those districts.
Animal
Churches are not. Churches are only allowed in residential districts or the MFMU. So, but it's probably the only MFMU district that has a church in it. So it's not the end of the world if you leave churches in there. Let's see. Funeral homes need a special use permit if you want them in an MFMU, so.
Right, so they're allowed.
Allowed, but only by special use permit. Yeah, yes. It's just a GC where they're, as of right, permitted. So, yeah, I just think that there's more discussion that we could have about Bowmansville in terms of how we could build in some additional protections, whether, you know, through an overlay district that includes some protections for historic character and environmental resources.
The town line would follow suit.
Town line is a little different because there's, first of all, it's not as large as Bowmansville. And there's a handful of uses there, and they're all zoned, light commercial? Yeah, light commercial. And then on the other side, in the town, those handful of properties there on the east side of the intersection, they're zoned GB and GC, I think it was, in Alden. Yeah, but they're zoned for commercial use as well.
I think we share a street with, we're on one side.
Yeah, that's
Right.
town line.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, right now, they're just, so,
Now, again, that's major intersection. I have no
Yep.
problem with commercial being there.
right, it's what us planners would call a node of activity.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little commercial node that and you've got it zoned. I mean, maybe taking a closer look at it, and I'd actually have to go out there, and I will do that. You might want to zone more of the land for commercial use.
Can you pull out on that, Matt, so we can see the rest of,
Rest of the area,
yeah.
Neighboring streets.
surrounded by air.
Yeah, it's all surrounded
Yeah.
Okay,
by,
so where did that new, warehouses, where did they go in? We're talking about Town Line Road here, right?
It's gonna be north of here, considerably.
oh, yeah, up near Walden and stuff, right?
More, between Malden and,
This right here is the hamlet of
Oh,
Town
Walden
Line.
and Erie.
Matt,
Okay.
is this what is designated,
Broadway town.
Yeah,
which is the hamlet of Town Line area?
yep.
And when it goes north to Walden, is that still in the hamlet?
No, Walden's way north.
Right.
Way north. And Walden's where you want
Yeah,
your
can you go up there?
industrial stuff, yeah,
Take a look up there.
yeah. But this area is very rural, with the exception of this little commercial node that's here.
Which is kind of ideal for
Pardon me?
that area.
It is.
Are you sure? It's in a sewer district, but there's no sewer.
No.
Interesting, because I looked at the sewer district map, and the corridor does go along Broadway, but there's no sewer there. Yeah, that's important too, and that's probably one of the things that is kept, so So the MFMU that occurred at Pavement and Broadway, that's in the sewer district?
That's
Okay, all right. And that was a rezoning to allow that to happen there? No?
No, this is permitted.
It was, so when you created the MFMU district, that corner got zoned MFMU? Okay, all right, I was curious about that. Okay, because you were talking about, you know, creating places where you could put more MF. You have to be careful doing that to make sure that it's, that's where you want to look at your comprehensive plan and your vision map.
Right.
And make sure that it's in places where you can,
Can we specify those node areas where we want these?
I think the comprehensive plan
developments?
talks about that.
They've been identified in
Yeah.
several of
Yeah.
those plans.
Yeah.
There's a plan dating back to the 1950s that identified these same intersections as nodes.
Right.
Well, if you look at Broadway and Pavement, okay, and having read through that several different times, I would disagree that that was an area where a multifamily, multi-use, mixed use should have gone. Because if you read the comprehensive plan, it doesn't, you know, account for anything like that right down there.
But it may have
where you
been
can put
rezoned
50
prior to the comprehensive plan?
Prior to that, it was a neighborhood business district that permitted attached dwelling units. And with the
In
idea.
a little
that-
commercial area, like right on Broadway.
Right.
with the attached dwelling units, but also the idea that anything west of Paper Road was the higher density development.
Right.
That's-
Yeah,
that's
west,
what
west,
was
yes.
identified, West of Paper Road.
Yep.
Because the former corridor, the north-south corridor, fell apart. And by natural default, Pavement Road is that north-south corridor.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, but that stuff on that corner wouldn't have been there if it was still under the old zoning.
Yes, it would.
What's
The
the,
big apartment complex,
It would have been
it couldn't have gone up to Broadway because it would have been commercial development right there.
The former neighborhood business district would have permitted.
But there was a commercial, it was called business, it was called something like business something there, right? Before they changed.
neighborhood business.
Neighborhood business.
neighborhood business, yeah. Which is now more or less your LC. Yeah.
Well,
Combination of
Not-
that, and that was kind of split.
that's where the multifamily mixed use came into play because it was a commercial zoning district that allowed residential housing.
Got it, yeah, okay. I mean, and that's not a bad thing to have in a node, you know, I mean, you take, let's take Bowen and Broadway, you know, although it hasn't really developed the way that I would have pictured it in my mind from a mixed-use perspective, but you're starting to get that. And you do have that new development on the corner. Unfortunately, you got a Tim Hortons stuck in there, but I know that wasn't originally the intended use. But the way that node is building out is, I would say, in accordance with your comprehensive plan. You want all the density around the node, and you want the street frontage and the intersections to provide you those commercial services.
Right, which would have
You
been
know,
better at Broadway and Pavement than what went up there.
Right, but I do want to talk to you, there were two other areas that I looked at. If you can bring the map up a little bit.
The north.
Yep. This one here, and then, oh no, to the south, sorry. Other north. Yeah, a little bit more to the south. Okay, too far.
So what do you want to
Okay,
pick up?
stop. Perfect, stop.
Stop.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, so I was looking at this here and this here. That and that, because those are two more areas that the comprehensive plan recognizes as resource protection areas. Probably because of the two things, floodplain and wetlands. But, so having the MFMU extended over those lands, are they already developed?
They are developed. Prior to that, they were identified as an MFR3, rezoned for patio home development
Yeah.
on the south side of William Street.
Yeah.
That large swath that you see from Broadway and south is the Greenfield properties.
Oh,
So it's
got
a,
it.
you know,
And so they extended their development all the way back?
No, the property extends, that's the boundary of the
Right,
property.
but my question is, should the back portion of it stay MFMU?
Well, the recommendation from the comp plan wanted to get rid of the multi-zone properties.
Having frontier.
Half in one zoning
Okay,
district,
all right.
another half another zoning district.
I
There could be
I see.
protection areas.
Yeah, I see.
They could be identified as conservation areas.
Yes.
Deeded not to be developed at the point of review.
Okay. All right, well, then that would be in keeping with, because all I'm saying is I'm looking at that, and that's not consistent with the vision map from the comprehensive plan, but you're saying that the comprehensive plan also said get rid of the dual zoning
Exactly.
parcels. Yeah, I get it.
Those are the points of
Okay. So, yeah, there's significant environmental resources there that you want to be
But that's
cognizant
where
of.
development is going in.
We're back behind Greenfields? Or are you talking about the one that's further south on William?
No, I'm talking right there in the green.
Well, there's that little notch of the overlay district across the street from the patio home community. It's currently approved as a residential development.
Here? Oh, here, okay, yeah.
And that's the traffic access.
Oh, I see,
overlay.
got it,
It goes over the entire
yeah,
cross.
yeah. And they're gonna put multi-family development in there?
Single families
Single family.
on the south side of the creek.
Okay, so it's in accordance with the AR
With the,
zoning?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
With a conservation easement to protect the wetland areas
Beautiful.
and floodplain areas.
Beautiful, yeah, and so
But
that
the thing
kind
is, that got cut off of the multifamily, multi-use, right?
No.
Aren't they putting it as back to agricultural or something to build?
No, that's residential.
Yeah, and and if it's being developed in accordance with AR, then,
Yeah.
and it sounds perfectly fine to me, they're protecting the wetlands and such behind it, so that's good. What about the other side of the street? And the
The
big,
south side?
the big blue, yeah.
South side of William Street was previously rezoned to accept patio home communities.
Yep.
Again, it was an MFR3 zoning. On the right side, where you see the two dead-end streets,
Yeah.
that's LA 18. That's a state regulated
State, that's a
wetland.
DEC wetland,
It
okay,
won't be developed.
okay,
Beyond what's already done.
that's what I thought,
Beyond what's already there.
yeah, okay,
Again, we were
Yeah.
just converting what was already approved and existing
right,
to fit in a box of the zoning district.
got it, okay. Okay, so those two properties there aren't gonna be developed anyways, because of the reason, okay, so that doesn't matter. Now will you go back up to the north?
Whereabouts?
Go up to Pleasant View Road. Okay, now take the map,
West.
go off to the west a little bit, yep. Okay, the big blue there. I'm guessing the piece,
Already developed.
it has houses on it?
Houses in town, townhouses and patio homes.
On both sides of the blue? Oh, so that one's gone? Because there were wetlands in there.
There were.
Yes, yeah, okay, but they're gone now because they have houses on them?
Right.
How did DEC allow that to happen?
Wasn't very-
I'm sure it wasn't.
So
I'm
you'll see
surprised.
From Pleasant View Drive to Walton Avenue, that's the Pleasant Meadows development. That was probably early 2000s, identified significant environmental impact, wetland, flood,
Yeah.
all kinds of.
Yeah,
things, right?
'cause there's some further down.
There, right?
Right,
So what you see there already identified is a multifamily mixed use.
Yes.
Most of it is already developed.
so under the big yellow rectangle,
The big yellow rectangle is LA,
that's wetlands, yeah.
it's wetlands.
Okay, and the blue below it is developed?
Below it is already developed, there's an apartment complex on its span on Juniper on the east side.
Okay.
On the south side, there's patio homes on the western portion of the intersection, townhouses on the eastern portion of the intersection. And then there's a large swath that's identified in the Access Management Overlay District.
Yes.
That's not developed, but it's all wetlands.
Right. But,
Big yellow block.
yes, the big yellow block, and I'm just wondering about the blue.
The yellow block's owned by the town.
Okay, cool. That's good.
The connection between the two.
Right, and then the blue below it that's not in the overlay district, that's developed, because I'm sure there had to have been some kind of, that was in the check zone, so DEC must have had a say in that as well.
Oh, they did, yeah. They have to say it.
Yeah, okay, all right, that answers my questions about those. So we can talk more and look closer at Town Line, and we will look closer at Bowmansville.
Then we look at what's allowed in the,
I'm sorry?
then we look at what's allowed in the.
Yeah, yes, but now that I know, I mean, Matt provided me the reasoning, and I noted those things because I had questions as to why. And that answers my question, because it was the most logical zoning district to use. But I think to protect the character of Bowmansville and to recognize the environmental quality of it, then we look at some kind of an overlay district to build in some additional protective protections for it.
And the question whether or not the town wanted to move ahead with its own historic.
Yes, yes, yes. Yep.
Plant properties throughout the town, so you protect.
Okay. Are there any, I mean, the only, I mean, I know that you have, if you go all the way up, oh, I see you're in that.
Map.
If you went, yeah, can you flip back to the map? Yep. If you go all the way up to the town boundary, to the north. Yeah, Worley. You've got some MFMU up there, and I know that you've already got a development that is finishing up. And I'm guessing the piece,
Only one vacant parcel there.
yeah, you want to go over to the west, okay. Okay, yeah. So the vacant, so the blue that extends south of Worley, if that's not already developed, it will be developed with something? Okay. Because all the other red is the McGuire and the bar and, yeah, the Angry Buffalo and the restaurant, right? Yes, and the North Forest stuff, the Epic Center, got it. Okay, and then the other big blue one is the other multifamily.
This one here.
Yeah, that's just coming online right now, I think. Yep. Okay. The the yellow south of that one, there's wetlands.
So that's vacant.
Yeah, there's wetlands on the part of it, so. But I'm guessing that somebody will come in to do something there at some point. They'll either want to rezone it.
This parcel down here has had interest.
Yep. I would think that they'd come in and request MFMU zoning for higher density
They
multifamily.
proposed the planned unit development
Okay.
because of the wetlands that are on the property.
Yep.
And they're concentrating all of the density towards Harris Hill Road.
Okay. Yep. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. And then maybe they'll do that on the parcel north of the thruway as well, because I'm sure somebody will come in with interest in that at some point, considering what's happening all around it.
Isn't there an issue with the bedrock there?
No basements.
Not very deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no basements. And yeah, well, big surprise, there's a stone quarry across the street.
Yeah, I mean, the area is sewer, so it's not
Yeah, right.
not an issue from a septic perspective.
Right.
Septic.
Right, and so it's just, they can't have basements, they have to be built on slab. Yeah, so, Yeah, but otherwise you'd have to have blasting. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I think everything else that's zoned MFR, MFMU is either developed or in a place where it could appropriately be developed. You know, I'm not even looking at the areas around Transit Road because, yeah, transit's transit. So, okay.
So at what point now do we start introducing public input?
Well, why don't we talk a little bit more about what I'd like to come back and at the next meeting, talk more about how we want to approach both of those hamlet areas. And I'll take a closer look at them. And maybe I can work with you and we can spin up some little land use maps and things that are just, yeah, focused areas, yes. And then we can talk and I'll do some research and present you with some samples of things that might make sense for regular zoning protections. And then looking at town line, I think we want to look, keeping in mind that it's not sewered, so that's going to control what can happen there. But maybe look at how it's currently zoned and are there areas that perhaps could receive a commercial zoning that would provide some incentives for changing use, but also some design guidelines or protections for whatever does happen there in the future, so that if you want it to look a certain way, maybe you don't really care what town line, and if somebody comes in and they want to redevelop, do you care what the buildings look like there? If you do, then we talk about some design guidelines.
Well, Matt, could you show us town line again where the commercial area is?
Yeah, it's one thing that town does not have.
Commercial,
No, an architectural standard.
yes, okay.
It's come up public.
For commercial, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's fairly easy to just adopt some general commercial design standards if you want to make them enforceable, or guidelines if you just want to give somebody some direction. But yeah, that's pretty easy to do. And not a bad thing to have.
Better sticker would be awesome.
Getting closer. There it is.
That's town line.
Yeah, you just went by it.
Oh, it's Broadway.
Bye.
Now, did you want to see Walden too?
Closer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to see Walden. In town.
Yeah, Walden's way up there at the north.
So we want to go north.
Oh, you want to look north on Walden?
No, I want to look north on town line.
Oh, town
To Walden.
Town line Walden?
Town line in Walden, yes, please.
This is industrial country.
Yes.
Okay, so we only have that area for commercial development in there, and then a multifamily mixed use is up there in the blue area.
All the blue is,
That's light industrial, all the.
Yeah, that's all light industrial.
Industrial.
Right. The only, there is one, yeah, that one little piece of MFMU right there.
Those are 6 houses right now.
Really?
yeah, that's what I tried to get some kind of.
But they were gonna put some apartments in there, but the community came out and drove, so the developer decided to convert to 6 individual building lots. Permitted.
It does work sometimes.
We were pushing for the retail.
Yes. Because that's the only thing, that there is no, you have all of these industries out here. And so hopefully they all have their own cafeterias and things, because there's nothing.
No food,
I didn't know.
There's kind of nothing out there. There's no,
Pizzeria
there's no
somewhere.
walkability, there's no,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and
Can't throw
the
what
other
you-
issue of it,
yes,
there's no mass transit.
I know.
MTA is
Right.
Even though
It's-
they don't even have buses that go that far?
No, no, God.
That's too bad.
We had to get them, I guess there was an issue with getting buses down Walden to Amazon. Because they stopped before that.
That's too bad. That's too bad. I mean, you're lucky to have such a huge area of industrial.
Well, we can get, NFTA would be willing to go farther. They
Right.
would just need the town's permission.
Yeah.
And they've expressed to me that they'd like to go farther.
So that forces all the traffic towards the village.
Of course.
Friends are.
Yes, yes. Yep.
I'd like to see a park and ride into the village.
Yeah, see, in my mind, the intersection of Pavement and Walden, that would have been a great place.
Truck stop now.
Yeah. But that would have been a great, well, it probably has a restaurant. so,
Reepa's
yeah.
and truck stop.
Oh, Reepa's, right.
Yeah, look at
Yeah.
not only businesses,
So, yeah, I mean, that would,
not
Is
only
that the
customers, but
Joe's?
employees.
yeah,
Speaking
okay.
of truck stop there, have we stopped the overnight parking in the trucks?
At a truck stop?
They've been able to limit it.
It's stopped them?
It's reduced. We're not going to stop it. It's limited.
Why would you want to stop it? Why would you want to stop it? I'm just curious.
They're not supposed to have overnight parking in that. It's not really a truck stop, it's become a truck stop.
Oh, well, that's because there's such a lack of them, and there's so many trucks that travel Walden. The only one that I can think of is the one up by Galleria Mall, which is hanging on by, the skin of its teeth to stay there.
Southwest corner, the intersection is Amazon.
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, other than what's at Walden, it's the Angola rest area. There is no, or Pembroke, there's no place, and there's so many trucks that travel these state roads, and there's no place for them. But that's a whole nother issue. So, okay,
They put an exit there? I think it'd be advantageous for the town.
We have an next meeting.
we do not, but we can.
We're gonna set that up tomorrow. Okay, we may
So-
double these up for a couple of months, just to make sure we get everything done, and go from there.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
got a lot of code work, so.
Yeah.
Did you say tomorrow?
I'll let you know tomorrow.
You'll set it up tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll set it up tomorrow.
Not a meeting tomorrow.
Meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow
No.
at 6 a.m.
You saying the next meeting would be about 2 months from now? Is that what?
No.
2 weeks, probably.
2 weeks, probably.
In a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like 2 months, wow.
Yeah, we'll just check the schedule tomorrow, we'll send it out to everybody and go from there.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, any other comments or anything for today?
I'll be away at the end of the month.
While we're taking a look at, I know we
maybe
specified
the,
increases
early
for
October
areas
would
of
be good.
codes. I was hoping that maybe it would be beneficial just to glance or just review
23rd.
all of them, make sure, if we're going
That's
through
a
it like
Monday.
minutes at the
Am I in the
floor,
right month?
let's just go through them all now.
I'm
Just
gonna be
make sure
gone
there's nothing
Thursday.
else we want changed to anything else.
Actually, Wednesday will be out. because I'll
I
be
don't know when the last time
preparing
they've
to
ever
go
been
away, but
reviewed was,
I-
so it would be.
Tuesday, I
Well,
could do.
I guess they were changed in
Monday, I could do.
2022.
Yes.
So it
2020 or
wasn't,
2022?
it wasn't that long
I'll be
ago.
gone
2022, I think.
26th, 27th, the weekend, and then coming back the 30th. So the
codes?
following week, I'm wide open.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay. Probably like 18.
Yeah, didn't the state change some of the designations that you could give zoning or something? Come up with new names for it? Like the business district thing disappeared and became multifamily mixed use?
Well, that was changed.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, there used to be like 14 different categories.
right.
They are down to
So they got rid of some of the categories and that's why it was changed and apparently became this.
neighborhood business, residential, commercial, RC, or a lot of them. And they were kind
Yeah. I just
of
meant
melded together.
all,
Four, general
all,
business.
see if anything else needs to be done at this
Yeah.
point in time.
Just
Okay.
lump it all together.
It's gonna be code and it's gonna be, town
Yeah.
law change, so.
Yeah. There are lots of meetings.
Come up with anything else?
Okay.
And one of the bigger things was too also that where you had big parcels, the old zoning, the way the zoning was written, it said the first 200 feet was commercial. 350, and deeper than that would have been residential.
And that's the kind of stuff you want to get rid of. Yep. And you'd be surprised how many communities had that type of zoning. Terrible. Yep. A lot of just, the first 500 feet of the road or the first 250 would be all commercial, and then everything behind it would be residential or ag, and that was just a terrible way to zone. Yep.
That even on Main Street, Claire, where Rock Hill and manufactured home community is.
Yeah.
It's back, that's part of that zone, sure. commercial.
Oh, Rock Oak?
Yeah.
Yes, it's,
It's commercial.
yep.
First,
Yeah, that's how, yes,
residential.
yeah. I think that all got fixed, but that's how it was. Yeah, Main Street, the whole thing was so much commercial frontage and, yep, Transit Road was the same way. Yep. Okay, so at the next meeting, we'll take a closer look at the land use and zoning in the hamlets. And I'm gonna do some research and look at some overlay districts that have provisions for environmental protection and historic protections, and then I'll also do a little bit of looking at establishing maybe a local historic commission or something.
I would say, for committee's consideration for the list of uses,
Right.
I would want to keep that.
If you do, yeah.
Yep. I think that's good. If we keep some of this stuff the same, then we gotta decide on the uses and what's gonna be in there.
Right. And using churches as an example, I mean, if Bowmansville is the only place where you have a church, so be it. Let it be a non-conforming use, but you could take churches out and some of those other things, yes. Yep. Okay,
You'll allow the coffee shop at the drive-through.
yes.
Churches were permitted in the residential
Yeah,
districts
sure.
as well, all the residential districts.
Yep.
That specific site is mixed use.
Yeah.
Church of Bowmansville is mixed use. and
Right, and so that, it makes sense, yeah, I get it. Yes, drive-throughs. That's it. Especially because you have two commercial districts that allow uses that can have drive-throughs. And if you make drive-throughs, I'm hoping the town had, it's a special use permit requirement, so yeah, you can control it, yep. Corner of
We off the air?
Harris Hill and Main. Harris Hill and Main, across from Nativity Church, was a bank.
Well, yeah, we gotta go do
They
other
wanna
things
put
at this point. We gotta come back
a
here
Tim
at 6
Hortons.
o'clock, so. Hey, listen, I'm gonna call this meeting at this point because we gotta come back here in a half hour for our drainage meeting. So, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.